When I started with Claude Code about 6 months back, my context window used to keep running out. I was not doing something particularly wrong. Rather, I was doing too much in the same context window. I used to research about a topic, then I would have competitors analyzed about that topic, then I would write a 3000 word draft article, I would run that against my brand voice guidelines, then I would have SEO done, and by the time I would have to run the quality audit of it, Claude Code would forget what was the topic about. The context window would run out. Many things in its audit would get misinterpreted, and that was causing issues because Claude Code would start going in circles and circles, and I have to fill the context again so that the entire cycle could be completed. The fix was not writing better prompts or shorter descriptions. Rather, it was delegating the same work to specialized agents called Claude Subagents so that they can have their own context window, they can have their own specific guidelines, own specific job description. Welcome to GenAI Unplugged. Today is lesson number 6 of my Claude Code full course series. In the last couple of lessons, we built 2 individual agents. In this particular lesson, I'm going to show you how to build a team of agents where we are going to build a researcher agent, a writer agent, and a reviewer agent, and how we can orchestrate this team of agents to automate your content generation pipeline. The same concept is applicable to not just content domain, rather any domain or business that you are working on. So let's get to the screen share and start building. Before we start building, let's first understand what a Claude Subagent is. Well, a Claude Subagent is more like a Claude instance which run in its own context window separate from the main window that you are using in order to converse with Claude Code. You do not see what the steps are being performed by the agent because it is running in its own isolated context window. Rather, you get back the results that you can further evaluate or synthesize within the main conversation window that you are having a conversation with Claude Code. But sometimes you also want to see how the work is flowing, and that's where skill will come into play. That if you want to see how the steps are flowing or being executed in your main context window, and you are okay to share or inherit the whatever context that you have in main conversation, then you can invoke a particular skill, because now as a human you are orchestrating that particular session with the help of a skill that you know about. Similar way, I can equip my sub agents with various skills. As humans or employees, we have different skills to execute or perform a particular task or duty on the job. Similar way, we can have different skills attached to a particular agent so that they can use those skills in order to complete a task or a job in parallel and then return us the results back so that we can evaluate the results in the main context window or synthesize them in order to perform a much bigger task. So that's the main difference between a skill and an agent as well, and that's the mental model that you should use when you think about whether I should be creating a skill or whether I should be creating a sub agent for it. Now let's quickly look at why do we need this separate context window at all. Well, if you look at this diagram, you can see that if I'm having like a single conversation, I have a research going on, I have writing going on, I have review going on, and there is basically a set limit of a context window based on the model that you are using. For example, Opus provides you 1 million context window size, right? Whereas Sonnet, you can have 250k token context window size. So in that case, if I'm, let's suppose, doing a research in a single conversation, it would fill up certain context tokens, right? Similarly, if I do writing, then it would fill up the other part. Maybe it reaches 80% of the context window. That means the context starts getting tighter and tighter. So that means when the review is going to happen, it might invoke compacting right in the middle, and review might need certain aspect of research that it might not be able to process or synthesize fully, and that way the quality of review might degrade by the time, and it may assume certain things that you may not like. So that's why it is important that if we have to do 3 separate activities, we can break them into focus sessions, which is like researcher gets its own context window, writer gets its own context window of 100%, and reviewer gets its own context window. Then based on the workflow that you are automating, here I'm automating research, write and review pipeline. So I have to be sequential in nature so that writer can actually inherit everything about research again, and reviewer can focus on the review aspect of it. So that's where they can carry their own task without forgetting anything. That's the importance of the context window, and that's why we need the Claude Subagents. Now if we look at, there are some of the built-in agents that you have already seen in work when you are working with Claude Code. For example, sometimes you might have seen that a haiku agent is provisioned by your main context window so as to quickly understand or grasp what is going on in the repo. Similarly, you may have seen a plan subagent as well. You may have seen general purpose subagents as well, which is also used to invoke other subagents or agents that Claude Code has access to in order to orchestrate a multi-step complex task for you. And the most important quality this subagent should have is that they should act as specialists rather than generalists, because if you have specific agents, they will be able to perform a focus session and the output would be much better for a specialist than a generalist. That's why we are here to build this team of agents today. Now let's look at how a particular Claude sub agent looks like. What is the anatomy of it? Well, you can see that how you can configure a Claude sub agent in Claude Code is, there is a name. So for example, here the name is content researcher. Then you have the description in place. This is the description where you basically tell so that Claude Code can identify which agent can be invoked. So like we have already learned in this course that there is a probabilistic nature of invoking these subagents or invoking these skills. The description helps Claude Code understand what subagent is available, and when I'm trying to ask something to be done, like example, a research needs to happen for my particular topic, then Claude Code won't know from the intent of my query or the prompt that I have a particular agent named content researcher, and the description, when it loads in its memory, it would understand that, hey, I have this agent, I'll use this agent to complete Dheeraj's task that he is asking to research upon. That's why it is important to put a clear description in place so that there is a high probability of invoking this agent. Then you can have a specific model as well for an agent, and you may have your main context window running with Opus, whereas the agent can run just in Haiku or Sonnet or Opus itself. So you can define which type of model you want. You can also have inherit so that it inherits the model from the main context window. Then we have effort. Here we are defining medium. This is like letting the Claude sub agent or Claude Code how much we want it to think or how hard we want it to think. Then I'm also providing access to the tool this agents have. This has web search, web fetch, Tavily. So again, you can see MCP servers also I can expose, Perplexity, Firecrawl, and the best part is that I can also have disallowed tools. So right now for a content researcher, I don't want it to write anything, right? So I'm having disallowed tools as edit and write so that this particular agent does not accidentally write anything, right? Skills. So this is what I was telling, that you can equip your agent with skill. So here I'm also equipping my agent with SEO check. So that means if content researcher is invoked, SEO checking is also being performed with the help of a skill that I have already defined. So I don't need to document the skill again. I'm just equipping my agent with the skill that is already existing. Then we have permission mode. This max turns is when like sometimes the agent will go into a loop and you want the agent to get out of the loop. So we are saying that if you are stuck in some sort of a loop, then just 20 max turns is what you have to execute. Don't execute like infinitely. So that's another important property that exists. Similarly, memory, we want to have at project level or local level or user level. So that's another distinction between a skill and an agent, that skill cannot maintain the memory, whereas agents can maintain the memory at 3 levels, and in fact local can be customized as well, as we'll see later in the lesson. Then I can also define whether it can run in the background or whether it can run right in the context window. Finally, the isolation work tree. So this is more like a technical concept, but I'll just skip this just to keep it fairly non-technical. So these are all the properties or configurations of a particular agent, and they are also termed as YAML formatter on top config. Mark down below the instructions. So basically below these 3 dashes, the entire instruction set that what job or what task that you want agent to execute, more like a system prompt. The detailed system prompt can be specified below it. So agent is going to follow those instructions with the help of this configuration. You do not need to specify all these properties. Some of the important properties, I would say, of course, name you have to give in, so give it a name. Then you should have a description, then tools, allowed tools or disallowed tools, again to limit the scope, to define the boundaries of the agent. Memory, I want like project, it compounds over time, it helps you over time. Agent learns from the memory. Max turn always I define so that it does not enter into infinite loop. And skills also, that I want it preloaded or equipped with what type of skills, so that agent already knows about them and can invoke whenever the time comes in its instructions that you have defined. Now enough of this foundational theory, but I wanted to cover this foundational theory because this is very important to understand, so that you can build very efficient Claude subagents in time to come. Now let's get to the screen share and understand how you can build these agents with the help of a live build. So before we go over there, again I like to show you the diagram or the architecture of the agents that we are going to build. And like I said, today we are going to build a 3-agent content team. And how the architecture or blueprint of it looks like, it inherits the same architecture or blueprint from the previous 2 lessons where we built couple of individual agents. If you have not followed those lessons, go and watch those lessons, because the same architecture I'm extending over to a 3-agent content team as well. As you can see right at the bottom, it's set of tools, and we already talked about what MCP is, what this particular layer, this is like our integration layer or tools layer or data layer, which provides external intelligence to our Claude subagents. What do you mean by external intelligence? Well, all these Claude models that exist, or any type of AI model, they have a knowledge cutoff date on which they are trained upon. Now this particular layer provides external intelligence, which means external knowledge that these AI models does not know about. That means anything that happened after that knowledge cutoff date. Example, I think most of the models are November 2025-ish these days, the knowledge cutoff date. So whatever has happened after that, they do not know about it. If they want to do some sort of a live search, they do not have that kind of knowledge with them. They do not have knowledge of my YouTube comments that on my channel are being generated, my CRM data, what my customers are. They do not have access to that knowledge. So I have to provide a knowledge. So that's why at the bottom, the layer that I call in my agent's blueprint is the tools or the integration or data layer, where in this particular 3-agent team, I have Tavily MCP that will provide the ability of searching, extracting, as well as scrolling various websites. And then I have access to built-in tools as well, which are read, write, edit, grep, glob. So anything that is required to write files, write content, read content by Claude Code is also provided at the bottom in this layer, which is like more or less inbuilt. That's why you see a different color. But the Tavily MCP is the main key over here, because that's the one that is required to do research, search, extract, crawl, and we have already seen how to configure that. I'm going to quickly show that as well. Then comes the memory layer, which is like again an optional layer. If you are getting started with it, you can skip this layer, but here I'm defining a memory which is very much customized in nature, so that per agent it learns from it, and then that learning gets compounded over a period of time, and agent behaves more and more in an expected manner as we do, because we are feeding the learning layer so that it learns over a period of time, and we'll see it in action in a while. Then we have the context profile. This layer is most important layer, because this is going to turn a generic AI response to a response that you as an individual with your own business, with your own context will produce when working with AI, right? So that's why it is very important to create this context profile, and I'm going to go through all these files as well yet again in this lesson too. And I mean, previous lesson we have discussed all these three things in detail. So go and watch those lessons as well, and then you can come back over here to understand that everything has been ported from that architecture over here. Now, right at the top, you can see instead of like just one agent, now I have three agents, which is like researcher, writer, and reviewer. And in the researcher, I have the functionality of Tavily search, extract, and crawl, which will write to research briefs folder. Writer has access to read and write file only, and it is going to basically write to drafts folder, and reviewer has read only capabilities of Tavily verify, so there is no edit happening and review is being reported over here. So this is where the brain of our entire content generation pipeline exists, but this brain is scattered among three particular agents orchestrated by our main window, as we'll see. So again, a quick overview or recap of how a Claude sub-agent architecture or blueprint look like. Let me open Visual Studio Code and start showing you how our context profiles are set up and how all these layers are set up in our ecosystem. So over here, I have opened Visual Studio Code. As you all know that I work with Visual Studio Code and an integrated terminal in it. So I'm going to start with the top of the menu. There is terminal, new terminal. I'm going to click, and you can see at the bottom a terminal is open. I'm going to click on this expand button. So it will expand over here, and I'm going to write Claude, right? So this will start Claude Code in this particular folder. And like I said, Visual Studio Code is a free code editor that you can download for free and use it. It provides you the access of the terminal over here, as well as it provides you access to the files. So whatever Claude Code is doing on the right, I can quickly see and verify what is happening to my files on the left hand side. So it is asking for me to permission to allow external imports. Yes, I'll allow it. It might not give you that because it is nested in a folder which is my business OS operating system that I have created. That's why it will just ask for a permission to access that particular folder. Provide that permission and you would see something like this. So right now Claude Code is started. So you can see that this is the main context window and agent is going to run in separate windows. So that's what I was talking about over here. So this has its own context limits. Left hand side, you see I have .claude folder. I have context profile. I mean, diagram I just showed you. That's like more like temporary for me and optional for you. Then this is the draft folder where all the drafts will go. Some prompts I have pre-written for you as well as for this demo purpose as well. So those prompts are mentioned over here. And then I have research brief. So whatever research agents will provide, that would go under over here. Then I have brand voice guidelines over here. So everyone like who works with AI, they must set their brand voice or establish their brand voice. If you have not done that, I have a free tool as well on my website. So go to my Substack and access the tool, which you can access for free to create your own brand voice as well by interviewing with it and getting a MD file or a JSON file, whatever you want from it. I'll drop a link in the description of the video as well. So this is where the brand voice guidelines are. So you can see like, this is for my brand called Discover with Dheeraj. So if I open the browser, so Discover with Dheeraj is my travel blog. I've been running it like for 17 years plus. It's all about Indian Trans Himalayas, high altitude and everything. So that is the example that I'm going to use over here. And more or less this whole example, this whole set of agents or team is more or less in place. So this is like an abstracted out version of the detailed pipeline that I have, but this is more or less what you will need in order to automate it and then fine tune these agents for you. So this particular brand voice file provides the voice profile that I have, what is the audience, the tone, register, and then like structural rules, how the first sentence should be, how the paragraph should be, how the sentences, average 20 words, split anything over 30 words, numbers, voice, local words that I use, dhaba, chai, Maggie, nala, rasta, right? So these are like some English word, Hindi English mixed words that I use, required elements, every route guide, how to, again, forbidden phrases, numbers and freshness, what good sounds like. So this is basically an example that I created based on my 17 years of writing. Again, it's a snippet of the exact file that I have. Just want to show you like how the structure is. So this is the brand voice over here. So now let's talk about layer by layer. So at the bottom, we had like a base layer. So there were like some agents. So if I go back over here, so there were like these tools, built-in tools, read, write, edit, grep. So these are all Claude Code internal tools that it can invoke anytime, right? So now The other part is the Tably MCP. So we are going to first configure the Tably MCP for us. So in order to do that, you can go to tably.com. So you can see that it can do a real-time search, extraction, research, and web crawling through a single secure API, right? So that's why I use Tably. Earlier, I used to use Perplexity and Firecrawl. You can use the combination of the two, but this simplifies my tech stack. So I can log in. You have to sign up first. So if you are not signed up, just sign up. Use Google login or any login that you want, and then like sign it up. So I'll just say continue with Google. I'll use my GenAI Unplugged account and I'm in. So you can see this is my plan. This is the key over here. Over here, you can see Tably MCP. So if I click on it, so this will provide me the instruction how I can configure it in Claude Code. So if you scroll down at the bottom, so you can see like different. So this says how you can connect to Claude Desktop. But if you keep scrolling down, you would see that how to connect to Claude Code, right? So over here, like it's giving me this particular command. So I can say that I'll just copy this. I'll come back to Visual Studio Code. I'll just expand it now. And I'm going to use exclamation mark because it invokes the shell mode. So that means it is not a command that Claude Code is going to execute. Rather, it is more like a command line prompt I can execute. So this is a command line prompt that we have. Claude MCP, add Tably remote MCP, transport protocol, HTTP, and this is the URL that I want. So if I click on this, enter. So it added the server for us. Right now, the server is added, but it is not basically invoked. And you can see that it has been added at the project scope of 3 agent content team. So over here. So right now, nothing will happen. So we have to exit first. So we have to restart the Claude. So I'm going to like say clear again so that, and then I'm going to say Claude, and here I'll write MCP. Okay, I think something happened in the last try, so I just write /MCP again and enter. So you can see over here Tably remote MCP. It's a local MCP server for this particular project. It needs authentication. I'll just enter over here and I'll say again enter and authenticate. It opens an authentication window, and here I have to log in with the same credentials that I used in order to add it. So I use my GenAI Unplugged email. So you can see that authentication is successful because I was already logged in. So now over here, authentication successful, connected to Tably remote MCP. So that means our first layer, which is the bottommost layer of providing external intelligence to our model, which is Opus in this case, and other agents have the access to it. So that is now available in our project workspace. So first layer is set up. I'm going to skip the memory layer for now, and I'm going to move to the context layer so that you can understand how the context profiles are set up. And we'll come back to the memory layer later on so that you fully understand when runs happen, how the memory gets appended or accumulated over a period of time. So here is the context profile, right? So like I said, I have 3 context profile. Again, you can use these files that I will scaffold, and you can go to my Substack and download all these files as well. So in order to go to Substack, you can open my Substack over here, genaiunplugged.substack.com. You can go to this Claude Code tutorials, and at the bottom you would see that there is a foundational. So I built 5 research subagents using Claude Code. Here is the foundation. So this is where you will find all these files. So you can like just keep on scrolling and download these files and then scaffold it. Then what would happen is that you can drop all these context files into Claude Code and ask Claude Code to use Ask User Quotient tool in order to interview and replace these files context from Dheeraj or Discover with Dheeraj context to your context. I'll provide the templates as well. So there are templates as well that you can download over there. So you can use like these are the templatized version of business context, context strategy, and research sources. Can you like look at them and modify according to our business, our domain? So Claude will help you build these files if you don't have it. Now let's look at these context profiles one by one. So I'll open business context. At the top, you will see the purpose, the lens every agent on the content team filters through. So this is very important, right? Update cadence is rarely, because this is like your business identity, audience, and strategy positioning that may change only quarterly. So we'll change it rarely. This talks about who am I, name, site type, platform, archive. I write practical first, inspirational second. So this is like all the context that you are providing, right? These are my ICP or ideal customer profiles or avatar or target audience, like avatar A, first time Indian road tripper, avatar B, returning road adventure traveler. Then Strategic positioning Q2 2026. The authority needs to be built, audience, style, coverage breadth, and voice. Then strategic goals for this quarter: reclaim Spiti and Ladakh route guides, capture pre-season planning queries, build EAT signals. This is important for AEO. I have published a detailed video of AEO and SEO research agent. You can also check that video as well in order to build your AEO and SEO optimization capability with the help of Claude Code. Now diversify away from Spiti and Ladakh. So there is heavy concentration over here. I want to like diversify to Uttarakhand and Kinnaur, which are other regions as well. What the content team optimizes for: current over comprehensive, specific over generic, first person proof, and answer engine ready. What the content team avoids: these are some certain things like international travel, luxury, generic top 10 places, listicles, pure trekking content. So all these I avoid on my particular channel or a particular blog. Now the content strategy, again, purpose is there, content pillars. So these are the content pillars that I use. Brand voice, again, brand voice is documented over here, but these are some of the summarized versions of it. Then content format and standards. So length is this, 2000 to 4000 word, practical info boxes, quick answer blogs, 5 to 8 FAQs, 5 to 10 internal links, first person voice, year in the title, real proof. Then we have SEO and AEO focus, current content calendar, next 4 weeks. So this particular file will keep on editing on a monthly basis. Topics we cover, this is the priority order of the topics that we cover in articles, and topics we don't rank or skip. Finally, I have the research sources as well. So this is like official and government websites that it should be researching upon. This is like a trusted sources for facts. Here we have like high trust community and first hand information that is available. So Reddit R India, motorcycles, travel, Team BHP, and plus road status threads that are over there, the freshness rules. These are the competitors that we have, this guy, then Thrilophilia, and then like this guy. All these are, competitor profiles, and you can have your competitor profile set up as well. Our differentiation from them, then source quality scoring, like how will you score, what is the authority, what is the recency, specificity, verifiability, and then, what are the red flags. These are some of the things that we don't want, right? And finally, the targeting for the Tavily, like how it should be using extract, crawl, and search capabilities of its own MCP server. So that's how I have set up the context profile. And like I said, you can just drop the templates and ask Claude Code to interview so that you can set up your third layer, which is like just below your agents layer. So that part is done. Then we go into the .claude folder, and you can see the agent memory is there. Again, reviewer, researcher, writer, agent memories are all over here. These are the memory.md files, which will more or less start with empty. So you can see that voice patterns that land, mistakes I keep making, structure lessons, right? So these are the lessons that I ask Claude to put into it. And these are the memory.md files, this manually that we are creating over here, manually we are building in this agent dash memory files, right? So that's how we structure the memory layer. Again, these are like all of them are like empty more or less. And this gets read as well, and we'll see like how this gets read. But this is how I structure my memory, and these are like some of the important things that you put in the memory based on the type of agent that you are building. Again, you can ask Claude to build these files for you as well by using these template examples, right? Now this is the final layer that we have, which is the agents layer, and agents layer again is present in .claude folder. So if I open my researcher agent, right, so you can see this is the YAML formatter part that we were talking about. That YAML formatter, YAML formatter, is in between these three dashes, and it consists of all the properties that you want to have. So for a researcher, it has a name, it has a description, it has a model, and then set of tools that it exposes to. Then maximum turns we have 25, and memory is at the project level. You can see it is defining you are a researcher of Discover with Dheeraj with content team, and your job is to gather current, accurate, and citable facts and make clear content angle. You gather, you do not write or edit the article, you cannot write to drafts folder. So you are specifying the boundaries of these agent, right? And then you are defining before you start the session, read all the context profile. Then check the memory as well. So this is how the custom memory gets over a period of time, helps agent understand. So before starting every session, it is going to read the memory as well. Then cross check the calendar. So again, we have the content strategy where the calendar is present. So we are asking it to cross check. And like we said, below these three dashes is the system prompt or the instructions of this agent. And I'm reading all these instructions only over here. Then Tably is your primary research tool. So Tably research is for discovery and competitor check. Tably extract is to extract the content from them. Tably crawl is to crawl, right? And then like web search, web fetch are backup if Tably is somehow unavailable. Research processes search for current coverage, score sources, extract, pull the facts that matter, and find the gap. Save your brief to research briefs with topic -brief.md file. So we have the folder over here, research brief, which is currently kind of empty. And in the output, you should have a topic overview. You should have pillar. You should have competitive landscape, their angle, what them is, title, URL, publish date that they have done, key facts, coverage gap, recommended angle that we should use. So once the output is done, here we are also mentioning the custom memory instructions, right? And the cost discipline. Score before you extract, never pull text from off pillar pages. So this will help us keep our tokens or credits of Tably minimized. If you don't specify this cost discipline, it can burn all your Tably credits in like maybe one research itself. So that's why it is important that cost optimization, cost discipline should be present in each and every agent. Again, this is just an example. You can detail out all the cost discipline that you have. My file looks pretty much very different or very detailed as this, kind of summary version of this agent looks like. So this was the researcher agent. The next in the pipeline is the writer agent. Again, similar type, writes, discover with Dheeraj route guides and how-tos for a research brief in brand voice to our content standards. Produce 2000 to 4000 word first person travel articles after the researcher has produced the brief. So it relies on researcher. So it's like a sequential pipeline, not a parallel pipeline. Here the model is Sonnet. And again, like, if I want a complex article to be written, I could easily say model could be Opus over here. Tools are this, max turns, and project is memory. Similar instructions are mentioned over here. This is like what it needs to be done. Again, before every session starts, read the context profile, read the memory file. Article structure should be in this format. There should be an opening. There should be practical info box, the big picture, core sections, a first hand moment, safety and difficulty, FAQs, budget line. Then the voice rules and full list is present in this file so that it does not like kind of overshoot it. It should refer that. Output needs to be saved over here. And then again, custom memory instructions are mentioned over here that read this if it exists, voice pattern that lands any mistakes that needs to be avoided. At the end of append anything new you noticed while writing. So that's how our memory keeps on building itself automatically. And then you can also manually tell to edit the memory for a pattern that you may have noticed during any type of run that you have executed though for this pipeline. So this was the writer, and final is the reviewer. Again, for the reviewer, similarly, the name is there, the description, model is Sonnet, but I have tools here, Tably search and strat as well. Disallowed tools are write and edit, max turn 15s, and project is there. Again, description starts like role and the job it needs to be done. Again, same thing, like read the context, read the memory. Now we are telling it that for any high level states, factual claims, permit rules, pass road status, distances, fuel stops, location, prices, spot check. So use these trusted sources in this particular file, as you know that we mentioned it. Then use Tably search, include domains, then extract for the best hit, and then verify 3 to 6 riskiest claim, not every number. So we don't want like every number to be validated, rather most risky. That's what the synthesis it needs to do. And then we are saying never fix it. That's the writer's job once you surface it, right? And this is where I provide a review checklist. So if you provide a 25-point checklist, so here you can see that I have 10 points for structure format, I have voice for 8 points, I have accuracy and value for 7 points. So this is like very specific in nature. These are particular checklist items that reviewer is going to very much focus upon with a focused mindset and identify the issues that are there. And this is the output format that I want it to output. Quality review article, score X out of 25, critical issue must fix before publish. So these are critical issues, these are major, these are minor, fact verified. What are the strengths? Recommendation is pass, needs verification or major rewrite. And then finally, again a similar way of custom memory. So that's how all our three agents are configured together. Now you must be wondering that how do I basically execute all these three agents together for a particular topic. So for that, like I have like some prompts already written. So I have like, how to execute like one agent. So if I open this one, you can see that I can say that use researcher agents to investigate this topic. Okay, and read the context. So I can have like a detailed prompt, but I can also say that I want to do research on this particular topic. So just because the intent is the research, without saying that invoke the researcher agent, Claude Code would understand and match to the description and the name of your agent, and then going to invoke the agent. So I don't need to be that explicit in writing my prompt, but if I want to be 100% sure, then I can write the prompt in this manner. Similarly for the writer, use the writer agent. Again, I want to write an article for a particular brief. If I just say this as well, it is going to execute or run the agent in parallel, and we are going to just see that as well. Finally, there is a review as well. So use the reviewer agent. Similar thing can be done. So either you can sit in the middle and run these three steps one at a time once the output is produced by each agent. So that means you are stuck. Maybe you are doing something else, but you are still meddling the session, you are still orchestrating it or babysitting it. Otherwise, what you can do is the full pipeline. So here I'll just copy this in between these three dashes, and what it says is run the full content pipeline for this particular topic. Use the researcher units to investigate the topic with Tably. Again, I'm mentioning it. You don't need to mention it. You don't need to like specify all these details. You can just write the intent of your overall steps that you want to take, and it is going to invoke each agent accordingly. So here I'm going to like just have the explicit one so that nothing breaks while I'm demoing it on the video live for you. So I'm going to like just paste it over here, and I'm going to press enter, and you can see that the prompt that I had is invoked. So I'll run the pipeline in sequence: researcher, writer, and reviewer. So Claude Code knows that it needs to run it in the sequence, not in parallel, right? Each step depends on the previous output. So they run one at a time, starting with the researcher. So now you can see that the thing that I was talking about. So there is a context size of this particular window, but at the bottom you can see that it has invoked researcher agent. Here you can see that researcher in the bracket, it says research Manali Spiti Atal Tunnel route. So that is what the background task is. Now it is running in the background. It is running in its own context window, so that this particular context window size is not getting exhausted, not getting polluted by this task. So once this is done, as you can see that once it returns, I'll chain it up to step 2, which is the writer from the brief, and then step 3 to audit and verify facts. I'll report the progress at each stage complete. So this is the way of executing a sequential pipeline, and while it executes, I have a fifth prompt as well. So you can see that run these three research tasks in parallel. So if I have to do something as a research in parallel, I can do the research in parallel. There is no dependency on writer or a reviewer agent. I can do a review of multiple drafts that have been written. I can do writing of multiple research that have been outputted. So I can execute all those three things in parallel individually, but as a sequential pipeline for end to end, I have to be sequential in nature. And you can also, specify in a way that first run 3 agents parallel, then run 3 agents in, writer agent, and then run 3 reviewer agents. When each outputs, Claude Code main window is going to orchestrate that kind of a task as well for you. You can put everything into a MD file or a document text file, and you can say that use dynamic workflows to orchestrate everything and document the entire month, or publish the calendar or articles for the entire month or entire quarter. It is going to do that for you as well with the help of these 3 agents. That's the power of building specific agents and then use them in the overall context prompt that can be orchestrated either through the help of an orchestrator agent or your main window as an orchestration. Now, if I just expand it back, let's see what is going on. Right now, still the research is going on. And as I was telling you that you are not able to see what these steps are being executed. You are going to just see the output over here once the output is created. And we told it to put the output in the research briefs. So as soon as this research brief gets filled up, that means the research agent has done its job. So already you can see that Manali Atal Tunnel's brief has been created. So that means research is about to be done. Anytime the notification will come. Now you can see that researcher is writing to the memory. That's what we had in the instruction as well. So once it is done, it is about to come over here and return the output to this particular window. But the output is written over here. But so it is going to just tell this particular context window that, hey, the output has been written. Now invoke the step 2 of writer agent. So any minute it can come or land over here. All right, so you can see that it came to rest. Step 1 is done. The brief is saved with the competitor gap and verified facts. Now launching step 2 to draft the article from the brief. So here you can see step 2. Writer agent has been invoked and reviewer depends on this draft. So reviewer is waiting, and at the bottom you can see that writer window is running in parallel. So we are going to just look at what the brief it has created. So here is the research brief. So at the top the slug is there, date of brief, research, calendar status, and this is the topic overview. And then I have pillar also identified, secondary pillar also identified, the competitive landscape, what this guy has, this guy has, this guy has, like, this guy again, finally, this is the existing one that we had. So it also fetched our own content as well. And then full route is there. Then it is talking about key facts about it. These are the specific for this particular tunnel. These are permit registration for 2026. This is the road status, which is the current one. Mobile network and ATM. Again, seasonal opening window, coverage gap, recommended angle it has provided. And then people also ask these types of question it has provided. And all sources are also mentioned over here, so that our research is very much grounded and we can verify manually as well. Key facts needing 2026 confirmation before publishing. So it is also mentioned that whether this should be confirmed by our reviewer agent or not. So almost the draft is written. So you can see the file has been created here. So any moment the notification is going to come that writer has done its job. So now it is like scanning for M dashes in drafts.md. That means it is running through the some guidelines that we had, that it has to follow the brand voice guidelines. So it is running through it and scanning in the draft these guidelines. So the writing agent has done its job as well. So now it is saving the draft. All right, you can see that the agent has come to the rest. So that means that is also done, and 2900 word draft has been saved. Voice is clean. And now it is launching the reviewer step to audit the draft and verify the risky facts with Tavily. So now you can see third agent has been launched, which is the reviewer agent, and it is auditing and verifying the flag facts for read only Tavily only. I'll just open the draft over here and we can quickly see what it has written. So you can see there is a practical info box, what Atal Tunnel actually changed, what is the route breakdown, like entire stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So it's like very accurate, I would say, because I've been traveling on these routes for 15-16 years now, and it has pretty much covered almost all the aspects with its own research and the content that it has created. The FAQs are also over here, and now it is just verifying against the 25 checkpoint list that I had created. So now let's see what's happening over here. So now you can see that pipeline has been fully completed and all 3 stages have been run successfully. So reviewer has below worded that 74 out of 100 needs revision. And these are the individual scores of different sections. Structure review 7 out of 10, voice is 6 out of 8, and accuracy value is 4 out of 7. And these are critical issues that needs to be fixed, fact needs to be verified, recommendation is revised, then it's a pass. You can now see that how 3 agent pipeline ran in sequential in one session in their own context window without polluting the main context window, and showed the results, not the steps, right? And now we can act as an orchestrator in this particular session, in this particular window, in order to further complete the job and also provide the learning. So this is a perfect classic example of memory, that hey, in this particular run, this is what happened. Put it into memory so that it does not happen again in future. That's how you make your agents more and more better, accurate as the time progresses, with the help of custom built agent memory layer that I just described to you. Now let's go back and let's quickly finish it up what we started. So we have already gone through these agents, and like I said, right, you need to be specific in nature. Like if the reviewer could edit it would silently fix the issue, so you will never learn. That's why we have explicit instruction that the reviewer cannot edit. A writer is the one that will edit, right? So that's what we just saw it in the example as well, or live. So we ran the team, we ran it in sequential, we reviewed the report, scores, issues. Now we can feed it back. Again, like I said, not every workflow can be parallelized. This is one the sequential pipeline was, but for independent tasks like researcher or writer, if the research has already happened for multiple types of content pieces, then you can run writer as well in parallel. Otherwise, research can also happen. So instead of 12 minutes, 4 minutes, you would get like 3 articles in place. Model selection cost, again, Sonnet, you can see for researcher, writer, I have Sonnet, reviewer, I have again Sonnet. There could be exception as well where Opus can be there. Again, agent memory, like I said, it's based on 2 layers, project side and the custom memory, which we just learned about. Debugging story, we just saw that. If you have vague instructions, right? If you don't have the explicit checklist that I had, it might say like, there are like find problems, 0 critical issues found. There is like a score of 9 out of 10. But when it runs from specific points, which were like, run this particular checklist and verify M dashes over there or not. This is like very, very specific thing. So it is going to score each and every point, not, hypothesize or not assume certain things. It knows what I want to be reviewed. So that's why I had like an explicit checklist over here. So these are some of the examples that it would surface directly on your face if you have checklist instead of vague instructions to do. So this was all about today's lesson, how many agents can work together to automate a certain pipeline, how you can orchestrate in them, how and why these Claude subagents are needed, and how they are different from the Claude skills. We learned about sequential execution, we learned about parallel execution, how we learned about how you can put some restrictions on the tool, allow certain tools, put some boundaries on your agents as well. So this is all I wanted to talk about in this lesson number 6 of my full course on Claude Code. In the next lesson, which is lesson number 7, we are going to snap everything together: commands, skills, hooks, MCP servers, these agents, how they all come together. So stay tuned on my channel, subscribe to it, share it with others. If you see value in my content, you can subscribe to my Substack as well. So I'll take your leave. You have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you in the next week lesson.